In my crouching level video, I talked about what I named crouching level 1.5, a special crouching state reached by high crouching an attack while holding down. I have since found some new information on this special crouching state and its properties, hence why I'm making this new video. There's been a bug that has been confusing the Tekken community for a while now. It is a bug that occurs when attempting to execute some moves after crouching to crush a high attack. This bug has a tendency to mess up punishes, by illogically executing a different move than the one you input. So let's see how it works. CL 1.5 occurs when crouching between 1 to 11 frames and crushing an active high during one of those frames. The attack has to be a high. Not even an unblockable high will work. And it needs to be close to you. Any further than 2 units and it will not trigger. Its duration depends on the incoming attack, along with the timing of your crouch. Once the opponent's attack stops being active, you will exit CL 1.5 3 frames after that, but no earlier than after 6 frames of down. So if you crush a jab between your first and third down frame, CL 1.5 will stop on frame 6. And if you crush Claudio's wall running 2 on frame 8, and it stops being active on frame 11, CL 1.5 will stop on frame 14. It can also end abruptly, even if the incoming attack is still active, if your opponent gets more than 1.7 units away from you. As you can see, this crouching state can already be very inconsistent. This will be a recurrent theme throughout this video, as CL 1.5 rarely follows predictable rules. Now that you know how to get in this crouching level, let's look at its properties. CL 1.5 allows for a very fast instant wall standing if your release down, resulting in a potentially 2 frames long command. You can have up to 5 frames of neutral before starting the wall standing move, but make sure not to release down while the opponent's attack is still active. It also removes access to standing moves, gives access to dig jabs and other crouching moves. For example, pressing down 1+2 as king will not result in his standing launcher, but his crouching tackle. But some rare crouching moves are impossible to do in this crouching level. Jack's crouching down back 1 is unreachable from CL 1.5. It will instead execute crouching down 1, a very different move. It can also make standing moves that use down inputs impossible to do. Heihachi's QCF2, Iron Fist, cannot be done if its down input occurs in CL 1.5, as it will make wall standing 2 come out instead. But if the down input occurs on down forward, Iron Fist comes out as intended. Negan's QCF1 cannot be done at all in CL 1.5, regardless of when the active frame occurs. Akuma and Giz, on the other hand, can still execute QCF and QCB motions without any problem. CL 1.5 gives faster access to full crouch. Once CL 1.5 is over, which is after 6 frames of down at its shortest, you are guaranteed to be in full crouch, giving you access to every full crouch move with a potentially 6 frames long command. Some highly specific full crouch moves can even be done directly in CL 1.5, allowing for a 2 frames full crouch move command. There is no predictability when it comes to what full crouch move can be done in 2 frames. Even the same character can possess full crouch moves that can be done in 2 frames, and other moves that can't. There are some specific strings that will fool the game into extending CL 1.5 duration, like Brian's Bond for 2. If you enter CL 1.5 during the first hit of that string, you will not leave it until the second hit stops being active. This is because the code that checks whether to end CL 1.5 or not checks only if the incoming attack is not active anymore. It doesn't check if the attack has even started being active, so 2 successive hits can prevent the game from detecting the previous attack has stopped being active, and make you stuck in CL 1.5 for longer. Still on this very string, the block animation it triggers on the second hit is a bit special. It will forcefully put you in CL 1.5 if you hold down as a high attack is coming, even if it is not active yet. So if you block the second hit of Brian's 142, then hold down, you will enter CL 1.5 while the incoming hit is not yet active, and stay there until it stops being active. For full crouch moves that can be done in CL 1.5, this actually allows you to execute them faster, the very moment you recover. For full crouch moves that can't, you can get out of CL 1.5 by cancelling your crouch to then immediately start it again and execute your full crouch command. This is not the only animation that shares this property. There are plenty of others hidden within the game. King's 1-2 is one of them. If you attempt to sidewalk after it using down inputs while a mid is coming, it will work as intended. But if the incoming attack is a high, it will mess up your sidewalk, as your down inputs will make you enter CL 1.5 instead. And surprisingly, recovering by crouching is actually faster. After 1-2, King has a +6 frame advantage. If he follows with back 2, which comes out in 14 frames, you cannot interrupt him, as his frame advantage makes him faster than even a 10 frames jab. But if, instead, on the very frame he starts his back 2, you crouch to go in CL 1.5 and execute a wall stunning move 1 frame later, you can interrupt him. And this is despite the fact that wall stunning 4 takes 11 frames to come out, plus 1 frame to go into crouch, so it is 2 frames slower than a jab. Recovery is definitely a couple frames faster here. How much exactly depends entirely on the animation, and it is not visible in frame data. So why this behavior for unblock and unhit animations? Most likely, this is to allow counterplay to strings that contain high attacks by encouraging you to duck under incoming highs rather than interrupt them. Here's a little tip to visually identify when you are in crouching level 1.5. If you hold down forward, your character will not move forward as they normally would with a regular crouch. They will instead stay perfectly still. If CL 1.5 happens in the middle of a crouch dash command, it will interfere with its functionment. For those with Mishima crouch dashes, the active frame has to happen on the very first down input, otherwise it will not start. For Master Raven, it will have no effect whatsoever. You can freely high crouch with her command at any timing. For Feng, Brian, Nina, Lily, Leo and Paul, the crouch dash will not start at all if its down input occurs during the active frame. However, there is no problem with the active frame occurring at the same time as the down forward input. This is also the case for the down back of Brian and Nina's backsway. And since for most of these characters, a down forward crouch dash is seen as crouching in the game, it will not get interrupted by high attacks, even if they have more than one active frame. Dragunov, however, is not that lucky. So in conclusion, CL 1.5 is a reliable way of achieving faster wall standing and full crouch moves, at the price of making other moves unreliable to use. And fun fact, the internal name used for CL 1.5 is the Japanese word yoke, which means protection. They also have the term pokayoke, which means mistake proofing, error proofing, or failsafe. This shows CL 1.5 is not actually a bug, but a mechanic intended to help you punish moves. So why would Master Raven be different? Because she can be. Crouching states and their transitions are not handled through global systems, but directly in character movesets. There are norms that are clearly established, but Master Raven doesn't follow them in many ways. Master Raven possesses, for unknown reasons, different behaviors for her crouching states when CL 1.5 is involved. To begin with, her CL 1.5 does not end when the opponent's attack stops being active. It will instead end 60 frames after being started, preventing her from using her full crouch moves for that full duration. You can observe this by holding down forward just like earlier, as she will not move forward for a full second after crushing a high. Thankfully, Master Raven has a unique way to cancel CL 1.5. After at least 11 frames of crouching, you can simply tap down back if you were crouching using down, or tap down if you were crouching using down back, which will then put her in full crouch. If you attempt to do a wall standing move out of her CL 1.5 between the first and 6th frame of crouching, and without leaving any neutral frame between the down and the attack input, it will instead execute a standing move. In fact, Master Raven has access to her entire standing moveset after crushing a high. You do not even need to release down if your attack possesses a down input. You can crush the high with it, and still execute your standing move afterward.